Hello, Playdate. This is Don.
This is Nick.
And Ryan is not with us this week. He's launching a book. Very important. But we have a special guest. Our guest this week is George Banks, the creator of Along Came a Spider. Hi, George. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm not too bad. How are you?
Doing very well. You are sitting in as our guest host, our third chair, and we're very excited to have you here to talk news, indie games of the week, and more.
Well, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So Along Came a Spider. We'll just give a quick little plug here. Is a itch release for the Playdate, and I put the link in here twice, so I could take it out here. We'll talk about it more in a minute. But it's George's first game. He is a new dev, and I wanted to also mention thank you to Ledbetter, also a dev for the Playdate, for joining us last week. The dev behind Art 7, which has a Halloween update coming this week. Thank you so much for joining us in the last episode. Please go back and listen to episode 16 if you missed that one. So all these great devs coming in to fill Ryan's shoes. I know it's an impossible task, but we appreciate you guys.
Definitely.
It's I think the thing that's amazing about Playdate is just sort of opening up this scene to be able to create games and put them out there. It's one of those things that you think, I've always dreamed about it since I was a little kid, having ideas about games and things, and for them to go, yeah, go on, off you go, get it done is just a bit mad, really. So really exciting to see what people make, and exciting to make something and put it out yourself. It's wild.
I've heard that so much from different people, just like, I've always dreamed of making a video game, and now I have. It's crazy.
It is, and I think it's funny because you go into it thinking, I've got these great ideas, and this is going to work just like this, and this is going to be perfect, and then you just smack up against so many brick walls, and I've made a teeny tiny game with quite a powerful creative engine, and it was knackering and a lot of work, and it just makes you think how any game ever gets made ever is just beyond me. All these perfect, beautiful, massive games. How on earth did they do it? But very challenging, but very rewarding. So it was a lot of fun.
Did you guys see the video from Squid God Dev this week, where he talked about how much money Pocket Pets made this week, or this past month or two?
It's popped up in my feed. I'll talk about him actually when we talk about Along Came a Spider, because his videos are just brilliant. And obviously you've mentioned him quite a lot on the podcast. I haven't watched it yet. I was very curious to watch it. What did he say?
It's a short video. I guess he's only been making games for a year, but right. He said it made about $800 so far, which equated to about $9 an hour. So he wasn't getting rich off of it, but he talked about how many hours he spent and whatnot. And it's crazy. It's a pretty polished game. We've talked about it a little bit on the show before, but pretty cool that just this hobby type project. I put that in air quotes because I'm not trying to diminish the work that he did at all. But it's cool that at least he got some return, and $9 isn't. I thought it was going to be like $1 an hour kind of thing. I was expecting to be heartbreaking, but no, that's okay.
As a side hustle, I wouldn't laugh at $9 an hour. That's not
a side hustle. Yeah. Anyway, should we get to news, guys?
Yeah, let's do it.
Can I do the boopity boops if Ryan's not here?
Oh, since he would ask politely. Yes.
Okay, hang on. Boopity boop boop boop. I think that's it, right? That's it.
That was very accurate. Yes.
There we go.
Booping.
Yeah. You'll appreciate that. I want to mention that Shining Gadget and Shadow Gadget from The Strangest are now up and running. They're working 100%. Very, very cool games. We talked about it a tiny bit on the last show because they had just come out, but they are kind of Pokemon meets Pokemon Go meets Ghostbusters meets Odama meets a bunch of other things. But very, very impressive games for the Playdate. And they're now, all the bugs have been worked out, or most of them. They're fully patched. I'll put the patch notes in the show notes and highly recommend checking those out. So just want to give a quick update on the shining gadget front. Also, something that I've been meaning to mention for like 2 months now is one of these season games, Star Sled, has gotten a control update officially. So
That's great.
Yeah. I don't know how many of the official season 1 games have had substantial updates, but Greg Maletic is the dev, and he added, I've got it on my Playdate here. We kind of not complained, but we were stressed about how touchy the controls were playing it. Have you played Star Sled yet, George?
I loved Star Sled. It was quite it was quite slippery, the ship with the crank. I really like that. It's one of those things. I mean, I out of curiosity, I put together my 24 list in order, seeing your lists up on your page, and Star Sled was actually higher up than I thought it would be. But I loved it, and I love the games that use the crank really well, or just use the crank in general. And it was that thing of once you kind of get used to the ship and you kind of learn how to use it, and then you sort of start to master it, you go, oh, actually, this is great. I feel like I've really learned and achieved in this game how to do it, and I can tackle anything that's put in front of me. And I found it really rewarding. I haven't found there's secrets in some of the levels, and I haven't found all of the secret exits yet. My one complaint, I would say, would be that I can't find any. Maybe I haven't seen it, but I can't find an indicator of where those secrets are. And I have 2 small kids, and I don't have time to keep going through it to try and find them. But no, I really enjoyed it. What have they changed? And have they made it D-pad accessible, or have they just sort of adjusted the speed or the tilt, or what's different?
So I believe that what they adjusted was different crank sensitivities. Is that right, Don?
Yeah, I've got it here. There's like a harder mode where the steering is absolute. So crank is up means you fly up, crank is down means you fly down. Like Hypermeteor, it says right on the screen. And then there's an easier mode where colliding with the sparks won't damage the sled. On the harder mode, I should say that colliding with the sparks destroys the sled. And then there's a relative steering mode, which I think, Nick, you had talked about when we reviewed the game, where like turning left, turning the crank, let's see, that'd be counterclockwise turns left, and turning the crank clockwise turns right. It makes it more driftier. That's something that you had an issue with, right? I'm trying to go back 3 months.
Yeah, my issue was the slipperiness of the controls. So
Okay.
there's a method that is the tight cranking method that I was championing on that podcast.
I think absolute is the
was
mode
that
you
when you were
wanted.
talking about? Yeah, were you talking about pulling the crank out to the side or something nuts and?
That was Ryan, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Madness.
Ryan was the kid that like played Super Nintendo with his foot on
Right.
on one side. Yeah, I think he was that kid. Anyway, the options are in there now, so you can experiment, see what works for you.
Yeah,
I'll go back to it. Yeah.
Very cool update. Sorry, I had a little shakiness there, but I think I can hear you guys now. I think we're good. Halloween update: Super Corporate Tax Evader, one of Nick's favorites. You can now be a zombie arm.
Yeah,
cranking the paper shredder. So kind of a fun update. And they added leaderboards. I have not played this since the Halloween update. Did you guys give it a shot yet?
Oh, not yet.
I only saw a
I haven't.
screenshot.
I did see. I think I saw something on Twitter about they're perhaps doing a sequel, or like I saw maybe concept art for a sequel or something. Did you guys see that?
No, but that excites me.
Championship edition or something? Turbo?
Yeah, no, I didn't. It didn't really. It didn't say much more about it, but it was just a couple of drawings. I hope I'm not dreaming that or making that up. I'm pretty sure that was something I saw. Yeah.
I hope that's true. Anyway, very cool. We need to check that out. This week,
Yeah.
Halloween's in a week. We got to get on that. Play that zombie arm. And I should say that Brains, the trivia game, constantly, every month they have updates, but it's kind of Halloween themed anyway. So another one to look at. And Penrose, Nick's pick of the week last time, another Halloween themed game that deserves another shout out. Speaking of updates, though, Generations for Playdate got a significant update last week on the 11th. Let me pull up the thing here. It's got achievements now, 40 achievements. Is that right, George? I think you were going to mention this.
It's so good. It was going to be my pick of the week, but you cheeky lot did it last week. It's just fantastic. I think I genuinely think I've just sold 2 Playdates from the strength of forcing people to play Generations on mine. And it took me. My high scores were hilarious. So I've never really been too into puzzle games, but that's actually changed quite a lot with Playdate because I think it's such a perfect little console for little sessions. So you pick it up, you play a puzzling game, you put it back down. Oh Maze was a great one from the season that I just loved. But this one, like, I tried it once and I hated it. And I got a score of 500 and thought, no, this is awful. I was like, well, I'll try it again. And tried it again. I got a score of about 600. And then on my third go, I got a score of 11,000 because it just clicked. And it's when my brain went, oh, pay attention when they slide in, they slide to the last place that you've put, and then you start, organizing them to fall in certain places to create chains, and using the special items or special portraits that you get so they clear, and you get new ones instead of just ignoring them. And it's just so well crafted. It's absolutely brilliant. There's one achievement which I cannot do, and it is driving me insane. It's called Fresh Start, and you've got to clear the entire board. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's driving me mad. But the 10 points one, that was a good one. And it's if you haven't got it, you must get Generations to Playdate.
I was enjoying it, basically based on the strength of Shift. I had the same issue with Shift where I got it and was like, I don't get it, and I shelved it. And then I went back and read the instructions, like, oh, I get it. Now it's my favorite game on there. But so Generations, I read the instructions first, just knowing it's the same dev. And so that 10-point achievement that you're talking about, basically, Nick, if you haven't checked out the achievement, the idea is to get the lowest possible score, which would be 10 points. But in trying to get that achievement, it taught me a new way to play. And that was like spreading the generations out so that you don't get matches right away.
Yeah.
Because then they start to cascade when you do get a match. And that basically gave me a new strategy. So reading ahead at the achievements and spoiling them kind of unlocked a new way to have fun with the game. So I really appreciated that. Anyway, if you haven't checked out Generations yet, definitely worth a look. And one final note, this is the last call for the Reach the Ocean contest. It ends on Halloween, so you got about a week left. All the links will be in the show notes. Get that high score. Get the Reach the Ocean merch, keychains and decals and whatnot. Check it out. And thanks to Zanya Lasagna for running such a great contest. All the details, again, be in the show notes.
Definitely. I've been, have you all been trying to reach the ocean? Have you been trying to hit that high score?
I've not played it, to be honest. Actually, I've not. That's one that's I need to add onto my list. But no, I've not tried it out yet.
Well, the high score is currently dispiritingly high at 811. So I've been spending a bit of free time poking at it with different runs, and haven't reached anywhere near those heights. But still a few days left, so anything can happen.
Yeah, high score chasing. I mean, I really got into Whitewater Wipeout, but then seeing the absolutely ludicrous scores I was getting, and I was doing the 5 spins, and I was really pleased. And going, that's got to be up there. Nah, doesn't even register. Just terrible. So yeah, not necessarily my forte, high score chasing things, but yeah, I'll check it out.
I'm gonna need to put like a drill on the crank to get those high scores on Whitewater. Something. Okay, so the main event. Let's talk to George about Along Came a Spider. George, what is Along Came the Spider? What is it about? Take the reins for a few.
It's about a spider. Yeah, it's about a little spider. I mean, it's such a bad dad joke. It's about a spider called Arachnid, who's an arachnid. It's all I could think of. And and basically, it's just a little top-down 2D adventure made using pulp. Um, I was really keen to make something using the system, and my only sort of prerequisite to making the game was that I had to use the crank. I had to use the crank, otherwise I didn't want to do it. Basically, so I'm quite close with lots of my family, and I have some cousins who like to play computer games too. And I was chatting with them, and I pulled out this big document. I was like, right, I'm making something that's about half the size of Link's Awakening. This is the plan. And my cousin Johnny,
Ambitious.
who I ended up making the game with, went, I think you should scale it back. It's the first thing you've ever made. I said, okay, all right. So I sort of went into Pulp, and I made a few bits and bobs, and I just practiced making sprites first of all. I've literally never coded in my entire life. I'm in my mid-30s, so I kind of just missed out on that when it was in schools and things. Never done pixel art ever. So I looked up pixels of Link and of Mario and all that kind of stuff, and drew them using the tile-based system on Pulp, and sort of to learn how they work, and then animated them. Then I made a little sort of basically. Then I looked at Squid God Dev, who you've talked about a lot. He does great videos about how to get started, and I kind of coded in how to move, and that was all fantastic. But I didn't really understand what I was doing. I was just copying what he was doing. And it got to a point where I was trying to tell a tile to make another tile move, and it kept crashing. I didn't understand what was going on. So I spoke to Johnny, who's my cousin, and who codes for a living, and he said, yeah, you've got to tell them to make an event, to make things happen in the game. And I said, right, let's make the game together. So he jumped on, and from there I said, okay, what cranks, what goes up and down? And as I was thinking this to myself and walking home, I walked through a spider's web and went, that's horrible. And that's also a really good idea. So I wanted to make something where I'm cranking, dropping a spider up and down. And it kind of just went from there, really. And I love games like Zelda. I mean, that's why I wanted to make that kind of game. And I thought I'll make a little overworld, and I'll go from bit to bit. I want it to have little secrets in there, but just kind of, if you think of each room that you kind of visit in the town as a dungeon, a very simple one-room dungeon, but a puzzle that you have to solve using that crank. Then you explore the overworld. That's it, really. It's just a small top-down adventure where you use the crank to drop and spider up and down, and have to kind of avoid the danger. And I try to fill it with as many kind of things to find and secrets as I can, while still being a kind of little pocket-sized adventure, basically. That was
And
a very long-winded way of saying it's a top-down 2D adventure.
did you compose the music and sound effects for the game?
I did, yeah. Gosh, I accidentally did a waltz for the overworld theme, which I was not anticipating. It just kind of happened. But I would it drive my wife nuts. Actually, I would think about all the different areas and what I wanted the music to be like, and I would just hold my phone and hum into the voice memo app, on my iPhone. And I'm not particularly, I have grade 3 in piano from when I was 12. I don't have a lot of musical knowledge, but I would just like work and to try and churn out what I had hummed into these songs. And I think particularly things like sound effects in adventure games are really key. They're big indicators for things. So I think the damage sound on Along Came a Spider is quite chunky, because you have to know you've been hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke a little bit with Don about. I won't spoil too much, but the one of the final rooms you go into, you have to move quite fast to get through it in certain places. And I programmed it, but I was having trouble getting past there. So I added a an audio cue to basically say, okay, get ready, okay, go. So and it's only 4 channels, only 4 different effects that you can use in Pulp, but actually the 4 things they've given you are, if you it takes a while to toy around with them, get used to them, but when you sort of start understanding how things work and putting in the reverb and stuff. It's a fantastic little system. The thing that's the big challenge is actually when you're making it on Pulp and using your browser, the levels and things, they all kind of balance out. But then when you put them on device, I had a siren go off in one place, and it was like the Playdate was absolutely screaming in my face. And then, I'm waking up my son. I'm going, "Oh my gosh! Oh, sorry, sorry." And other times, I have pieces of music and thinking, I can't hear any instruments apart from the drum going dum dum dum. It's just so getting that balance was difficult. But yeah, I mean, what did you think of the sound and the music? Because I know, Nick, you play with the sound off quite a lot, from what I remember.
I do, and I was playing on my lunch break primarily.
Right.
So, but I'm in an office with a lot of people around, so I only turned up the sound just occasionally because I wanted to hear the punctuation in different areas.
Okay.
But yeah, what I heard was great, and it sounded like it was all modulated through the Playdate synth. So the
Yeah.
other question I had for you was, did you have any pre-recorded snippets that you played back? Any audio files? Um,
No, no. So every sound, every piece of music is created in Pulp on their sound and song section.
Very cool.
There's an item in the game that I knew I needed for 2 of the endings. We should mention there's at least 5 endings. There's 5 that the game tells you there are, and you needed one item,
Oh,
or at least I assumed I would need the one item for 2 of the endings. So the first time
yes.
through, I played with the sound on, and the screen you're mentioning where you have to move fast and there's an audio cue. The second time, I knew I needed to get that item, but it was late at night and I couldn't have the sound on, and I could not make it through the room without the audio cue. So I was like, all right,
Oh,
I'm gonna have
sorry.
to try this a different day. I couldn't get the timing down. So I appreciated that the cue was there. And I guess there is a
Yeah.
bit of a visual cue, but I needed that
Yes.
rhythmic timing.
Yeah. And this is the thing, I think that one of the big challenges is I probably said that 8 times about everything because everything was a challenge making a game for the first time. But you don't have playtesters and you don't have feedback. So Johnny and I are quite some of our tastes are quite different about things. He quote hates an unskippable cutscene, and I love just reading everything in games and looking at everything. So between the two of us, there was a lot of back and forth about, okay, well, it should include this and should have this, and well, let's tweak that. But the big thing would be we'd meet up every so often to play it on the device, and initially getting through that room was way too easy because I made the basically the gap that you have was 1 second, and when it was 1 second, you just go slip through and go, okay, this is nothing, and then I changed it to half a second, and it was just impossible. So it's that tiny balance of going, okay, so we'll make it point. I think it's either 0.6 or 0.65, but tweaking those things as you go along to go. I don't want this game to be impossible. I want this room to be challenging, but having a test audience of 2 and 2 people that made it, it's difficult to gauge where people will fall in that, and I had a couple of friends play it, and there's a room with some flies. I won't spoil too much, but they found that very difficult in terms of reading the pattern. But what's quite satisfying now is one of them, Chloe, she's played it a few times. Now when she plays the room, she can just smash through that room because she's done it enough to learn the pattern. So I really like that. I like that it can be quite challenging initially, but then, if you decide to go after those endings and keep playing it through, it becomes, I hope, intuitive enough that you can then read it and get through it and kind of understand it. It's kind of like what I was saying about Star Sled earlier, in that it's quite tricky to kind of grasp what's happening initially, but actually your muscle memory kind of kicks in and then you can get through it. I mean, I'd love to see somebody speed run it. They probably do it in about 3 minutes, but it's fine tuning that difficulty was quite enjoyable, and finding how long to make those changes or change those patterns for enemies was definitely a fun part of the build.
Yeah, and I should probably mention that we were provided review copies of Along Came a Spider. So Don and I have had the privilege of playing through the game as we kind of mentioned there. But I along came a spider. I've certainly gotten that muscle memory for the
Right.
different rooms,
Yeah,
but Star Sled just not
didn't
yet.
happen.
So
Yeah.
um,
Slightly more complex game than mine, so that's fair enough.
very very different control scheme, but
Yeah.
As far as the timing, when I first started playing, I thought the timing was really going to be a problem because I'm not good at the type of gameplay that comes up in several rooms. But my
Right.
second time through, I was almost speedrunning it. Like the timing just made a lot more
Oh,
sense to me, and I was
that's
grabbing
great. That
the
makes me so
items.
happy.
I was grabbing the items very quickly, and it wasn't until that last room with the sound
Mm,
that I finally hit a stopping point. I was,
yeah, yeah.
and with the skipping thing that your cousin was saying, I appreciated that you can skip the intro the second time through, or continuous times through. Um, yeah, I mean we've seen the intro. The intro is great. You have the option of playing it or not playing it, so I appreciated that.
welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. Unfortunately, Don had to step out, so George and I will continue through. So, George, we were talking about your new game, Along Came a Spider, your first game,
Mhm.
and I was curious, what did you think of the development tools overall? It sounds like you're fairly positive about the creation suite that
Yeah,
Panic
I
has
mean,
provided.
I think Pulp's amazing, and as I said at the start of the show, the fact that they've made this community, and you can make a game and post it, and all the all the other developers I've spoken to are just so kind and so lovely, giving you advice, helping you out. Island is a game you guys have spoken about loads. Ron Lent, when I was starting out, I'd messaged him saying, "How on earth do you do this?" And he took the time to write back. And so it was kind of like it was a slow learning process, and with Johnny teaching me about events and how event handlers work. And once you get that idea going of, okay, I need to basically instruct the room to do this, then it really opens things up. The thing that we found really difficult was because we knew we wanted Eric to move with the crank, because the game setup initially was moving up, down, left, right with the D-pad, to
Hmm.
then shift it to the crank. Pulp didn't really want us to do that, and if you call ignore, then it ignores all inputs, including the crank. So the thing that Johnny would find very interesting about Pulp, and what he would say from his sort of coding background, would be that its accessibility is absolutely fantastic, but the fact that it's very accessible means it's also quite limited in some respects. And I
Hmm.
suppose it has to be to stop people getting overwhelmed with what they're presented with. But we uh, Eric moves down the tiles, and he has to store each tile that he moves on and then replace it, as do the enemies. So it was we were kind of creating stuff that Pop wasn't necessarily wanting to do, or maybe necessarily meant to do, but
Hmm.
the structure is strong enough to support that. And we initially had Eric moving down from the window, and he would generate web behind him. But actually, we found that you couldn't really place where he was, and you weren't really necessarily sure where you were traveling. So then we did this little, it's so easy to think, okay, but look, I'm going to make an animation where he drops his web down into the room, and then
Hmm.
you start moving. And what's that phrase? Necessity is the mother of invention. It's
Right.
kind of, is okay. What's the easiest way to get around this? I will make this animation, and he just moves down the web now. So it's brilliantly robust that you can go, I need to fix this problem. Here's an easy solution. We want to do this thing that's quite complicated. It's not necessarily straightforward to do it on Pulp, but
Hmm.
Pulp has the tools to do it, and that's, to be honest, I think for Panic to have made that is just absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, it's really impressive to me, the things that developers such as yourself, and your cousin working with you have been able to create out of this tool, which at first glance, I looked into it when the Playdate launched, and I found it to be very limited in some
Mm.
ways, in ways that can stifle creativity. But some of the creative work that's come out of Pulp, including this amazing game, Along Came a Spider, is it's just astonishing. So
Well, thank
um,
you.
hats off to you for sure. Um, my next question is: do you have any other games in the pipeline? Is this the start
Oh,
of a brilliant games career?
well, yeah, that's very kind. Um, it's tricky. So I basically, I think creating this game was in equal parts kind of maddening and just totally addictive. As you're hitting up against walls, and I would occasionally send Johnny a page of script and go, "Why isn't this working?" And say, "Yeah, there's one typo here." You think, "Oh, for God," and it just doesn't. It just means nothing works. But then you make it, and it does work, and it's just utterly thrilling that that you've created this thing. So we've talked about it, and he won't mind me saying this, but I said last week, so a week before we're about to launch, I said, Johnny, I've got a great idea for a sixth ending, and he just he just messaged me in all caps, scope creep, because you could endlessly tinker with it, and
Yeah.
so I'd love to do more, but I think the game's done, and I'm really happy with the 5 endings. And I wanted to do that because it was such a short game that I thought I want a reason to come back and play it again,
Hmm.
and also I want. Oh, I don't know if I should talk about this in the spoiler part. I'm going to mention something else in the spoiler part about that as well.
Okay.
Um,
We'll save that for later.
but I've said to him, maybe if I don't know 100 people download it, I'll make some DLC for it or something. We'll add an ending or something as a kind of hooray, people bought our game. But almost immediately after posting, messaged him and said, like, thanks for all your help. And he said, it's been lovely to work. I said, shall we do another one? And he went, yeah, I think we probably should. So we're kicking about a couple of ideas. I mean, one, I was playing, do you know Head on the Switch?
Yes.
Yes, great game. Really enjoyed that. And it's kind of like a puzzle platformer, kind of like a Metroidvania, but less combat and more kind of
Hmm.
puzzle platforming. So I loved that, really loved it. And I thought I would like to do something like that where you're going from room to room and you're getting power ups and you're going back. It is a logistical nightmare. So I've already started to create the project because it's so easy to get started on Pulp, and it's kind of sat there. And I don't want to talk about it because I'm really excited about it, but we've had one other idea, and the more we talk about it, the more we think, oh, I think we have to. I can't believe that this doesn't already exist on Playdate, and B, it's going to be hard, but I think we've got to do it. And I think we might start tinkering around with Lua to have a look at it,
Excellent.
because it will do more of the things that we want it to do, I think. So it's
Yeah.
Along Came a Spider came out yesterday, so it's very early days, but I've already kind of feverishly been drawing lots of plans up and making the odd screen, just to kind of get a feel for it. So yeah,
Fantastic.
definitely something more to come. Yeah,
Wonderful. And congratulations on the launch.
thank you.
After playing the game, I'm just blown away. So I
Oh,
wish you
thank you
all
so
the
much. So much.
success in the world. And everybody listening to this right now, definitely go to itch.io and download and sideload Along Came a Spider.
Yeah.
So, George,
Yes.
quick hits, indie inventory. These are games that released over the past fortnight,
Okay.
and they are things that Don found that he wanted to highlight. Now, I have absolutely no idea what any of these are.
Okay.
Well, I do know one.
Okay.
So I'm going to load these up, and if you have any experience with them, please speak up.
Yes. And I'll tell you my indie pick. I didn't tell you my indie pick because we talked about
Well,
generations. But
we'll we'll
come
get
on. Let's
we'll
see if
get
it's
to
in there.
that after indie inventory. But this first one is called One Bit Arena.
No.
And it was developed by Oscar Braindead, and it is a name your own price game. It appears to be a Smash TV style game. This is very much a Don style game.
Okay.
So I have not played that one, but
I
that
think
one
I've
is
seen that.
called.
I think that's popped up on my thing, but no, I haven't played that one.
Okay, that one's One Bit Arena. Next up is Crash Mole.
Yes, I've seen Crash Mode. Yes, that's on my list. That looks like a lot of fun.
It,
Do you know what it is?
it looks like a very fun game of whack a mole.
Yes,
Um,
but but you play as the mole, so
Oh, perfect!
you don't want to
What a
get whacked.
twist!
Yeah, no,
Nice.
it looks fantastic. So it's I believe it's $2, and very basically there's you see underneath the mole machine. The mole machine. I don't know if that's what it's called. That just sounds like a sort of mole-powered car. But you see underneath the mole machine, and there's like sort of 4 shafts of light, and they correspond with 4 holes at the top of the table. And you see the shadow of the mallet appearing, and you want to try and pop up into the holes as much as possible, where the mallet isn't hitting. And you crank up to move up, and crank down to move down. And I think there's a time limit. So you want to get up, and maybe every time you go up, it adds a bit more time. So it's like a high score chase. You want to pop up as many times as possible without getting whacked and losing your life. It looks fantastic. It's on my list.
Beautiful idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the artwork, the
artwork's
itch pages
amazing. Yeah.
artwork appears to be a takeoff of like Nintendo Game and Watch. So
very much. I mean, I think he's put together for it like a Famicom box, you know, for his artwork for it, and it looks absolutely brilliant. Yeah, very good. On my list.
Beautiful, and that is $2, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Next is Invert World.
Invert World? No, it's not one that's come across my desk. it's not one I've seen. No.
It actually tries to run in the browser, so I don't have the beautiful animated GIFs that I normally see here. But it says that it's like an endless runner, but with levels created by me, and the developer is Anafiox. I'm not sure what this one is, but it is name your own price, and check it out.
Very cool.
Next up, Low Tech Games. Friend of the podcast and developer of many interesting and amazing tools and games for the Playdate, has developed a new musical instrument.
Is it the ocarina?
It's the ocarina. It's Ocarina PD.
So good.
And it's currently on sale, 50% off. It's $1 at the moment.
Wow.
Check it out. Just very creative.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm an absolute Zelda nut, so I think I'm going to have to bust this out. I'm going to have to learn the songs on them.
All the songs, yeah. Perfect.
You forget the Playdate has a microphone. It's nuts.
I definitely do, and an accelerometer, a tilt sensor.
Yeah.
There's so much packed into this.
Oh, it's brilliant. But no link cables. That's the thing. I wish they had link cables.
But
wish
wireless.
You could have 2 play games.
Wireless connectivity. So it is potentially possible if they open up the SDK a little bit more. So
come on. Come on.
Last on the list is 2048, and this appears to be a puzzle game. It's by H2 Melu. I almost certainly mispronounced that, but it's name your own price.
I think that's very new, actually, because I saw that pop up next to Along Came a Spider. So, yeah, I think it may be like a tile-based thing. Not 100% sure.
It appears to be a tile-based math puzzler, and you're trying to match identical tiles and reach the number 2048. But it's base 2. All the tiles appear to be binary, so pretty cool.
Yeah.
This appeals to me on a technical level, so looking forward to checking that out.
Well, I like to think of myself as quite an intelligent math nerd, but I think this is sort of one of those games that would make me feel bad about myself. I would definitely give it a go, but yeah, I'd be very disappointed with myself if I couldn't reach that number.
Well, we'll have to compare scores and speed runs.
Oh yeah.
So next up is 50 Coins of Deadly Doom. This is by Ever Canadian, and it is free, totally free.
Oh wow.
So this is a hack and slash NES style game, is what they're billing it as.
Fantastic.
Looks interesting.
I mean, you can't ever knock a free game, you know, when somebody's built something. And I've just looked up now. It looks great. Yeah, a little adventure game.
So check it out. So George, tell me, what is your indie game of the week?
Now, I think I've just stumbled across it, and I think it's actually quite an old one. I think it's been out for a few months. And I looked through the podcast the
Mhm.
page for you guys, and I don't think you've ever covered it. It's a game called Circular
Circular.
by,
No.
I think it was Gingerbeard Man. Do you know
Okay.
it?
The dev's name is familiar. Have they developed other?
I believe they have, yeah. I'll
Okay.
do a quick search for him. But basically, so I know you like puzzlers, and it's a puzzle game, basically.
Mhm.
The best, how do I describe it? Okay, so yeah, oh no, he's got quite a lot on Playdate. So he did Daily Driver,
Okay.
yeah, and Sparrow Solitaire and a few other things. So basically, there is a big ball and a little ball, sort of orbiting it in the middle of the screen. And if you tilt the crank, that moves the little ball around the big ball. And basically, just imagine the letter C drops down over the ball, and you have to
Ah,
crank it to make the little ball fit through the gap in the C. Does that
fantastic.
make sense?
It does.
Yeah, very simple, super addictive,
Hmm.
and it speeds. If you get sort of chain, you get extra lives. If you do really well, it speeds up, and you need to be more precise with your cranks. So it's a high score chaser. It's great. The only thing I wish it had, you'd probably disagree with me here, would be music, basically music playing underneath it, because it's just a kind of bloop bump kind of thing. But it's $5. If you love sort of repetitive puzzle games like that test your reflexes, that kind of thing, it's worth getting.
It reminds me very much of Super Hexagon, um, which is a mobile game,
Oh, and
or
I don't know it.
and it's got the same kind of core concept, but with a kick and soundtrack. So
Oh, nice.
if you're looking for a similar style of gameplay, but actually this looks much less frustrating than Super Hexagon.
It's
Super
possible.
Hexagon requires everything is moving and shifting all the time, but this the thing that you're trying to match stays rigid as it moves down, which is
Right.
very helpful,
Yeah. Yeah.
just visually
Yeah.
distinguishing it. Um, so this looks super fun, and
It's
can't wait to
really,
give that a try.
yeah, it's quite chill. And I think there's a Zen mode as well, so you can just kind of
Perfect.
just do it and without the kind of stress and pressure of of getting those hoops in. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I brought another oldie, but a goodie,
Oh,
I
one.
think. It's called Space Troubles, and it's by Brothers Online. It's name your own price. This came out quite early in the Playdate's life cycle,
Right.
um, and it is um, kind of similar to there's an Atari 5200 game that's kind of like this that I can't recall the name of at the moment, but it is essentially you're in the cockpit of a spaceship,
Hmm.
and it has lasers mounted on the sides, and there are asteroids which are coming towards your ship, or meteors depending,
Hmm.
uh, and you're trying to shoot them out of the sky before they smash into your ship. You have 3 different hits before your ship explodes, and
Hmm.
it just, well, it seems to go endlessly. It does for me anyway.
Right.
Because I'm not good enough to see whatever the ending is. But it is quite fun, I find.
Yeah.
There are multiple difficulties, and it's it's a really interesting, um, simple concept, but a lot of fun. And the way that it narrows the field of view, so essentially the area that you're moving your cursor to
Mm.
shoot these asteroids is very, very small, just within the center of the Playdate screen. So there's a lot of
Ah,
ancillary UI that really doesn't matter very much. It's
mm.
just that central square. So it is a really interesting game, and I thought I'd highlight it because
Yeah.
it's been out for a long time, and I don't know how much buzz
How do
it's
you
been.
control the? Presume you have like a reticle or something to shoot them, or
You do,
is it
and
just D-pad or is it
it
crank or
is D-pad. The
right?
crank can fire, or buttons can
Ah.
fire,
Oh,
so you
great.
can. you can crank out quite a few laser shots.
Yeah, yeah, excellent.
Yep, which is nice.
Anything that makes me feel like I'm on the Millennium Falcon is okay with me. So that's it.
Yeah.
You say it's called Space Travels.
Space Troubles.
Space Troubles. Space Troubles. Oh, check it out.
Yes. So that brings us to the end of our show. But before we sign off, just a reminder, George and I are going to stick around for a minute and talk about spoilers for his game, Along Came a Spider. Thank you, George, for joining us and sticking through all of the technical difficulties we've had.
It's almost definitely my fault. So I apologize profusely. And thank you so much. I love the podcast. So thank you for having me on.
We're very glad to have you. If you are interested in finding us online, you can find us at playdatepodcast.com, and our Twitter and social links will be in the show notes. So let's give it about a couple seconds here, and then we'll jump into spoilers. So, George, let's talk spoiler talk for Along Came a Spider. I am so excited to talk with you. Don and I have been messaging. I've been enthralled with this game.
Oh, amazing.
So I only found 4 out of 5 of the endings, and I got Don up to speed with the 4th ending.
So I'm curious. Did you play the game sort of like straight first of all? Like, did you go, okay, this is the objective. I'm going to go to the objective.
Yes.
Or did you go off and explore?
So I went off and explored, and I did figure out what they're all kind of canonical endings, which is interesting. But I figured out what the main core concept was, and I stuck with that for the first ending. So,
okay, cool.
Again, these are spoilers, so
let's talk about them. It's fine. So you went and took the eye.
I took the eye, brought it back to the Elder, and then had to fight the Elder in a combat to the death.
I mean, you saw that coming, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay, good.
That was beautiful. And the cranking difficulty on the Elder, at first I was very surprised at how fast I needed to crank. But it made sense. It was cool.
That was another really difficult one to balance because, honestly, I think so. I had it initially that you did like the first. There's about 5 screens, so you push him down and sort of crush him. And the first one, I sort of had it for 3 seconds, and you have to do, I don't know, I can't remember what it was now, but maybe 9 rotations. So very easy. And then by the end of it was like, okay, you've got to crank for 29 seconds and do like 70 cranks or something. And people was going, I can't feel my arms, like it's awful. And then if I die, I don't want to do it again. So we shifted it down to each section is 5 seconds. And and it basically increases. You have to increase in speed for each one. And what I hope what we've got a nice balance of is that maybe it lures you into thinking like, this isn't too hard, and then by the end of it you're going, I've got a crank now. And the last one again should be challenging but not impossible. So I hope we've struck the right balance with that.
I felt it was a good balance, and it reminded me of other games like there's a sequence in Metal Gear Solid 4 where you're forced to mash the triangle like a million times. And it kind of reminded me of that, but obviously a lot less painful
it's
to play.
Less technical as well. But
so that was the first ending I achieved, and then I went back and brought the eye to the fountain. And that was such a cool twist. Once I had a suspicion that you were related to many of the ghosts,
right.
Because at one point during my playthrough, I think actually the second time I went into the party house.
I think that's my favorite ending, which is really depressing.
It was a fun one.
It's so stupid and very Monty Python. But I think it was. I think that was actually the first ending I made, as well. I just thought it would be so funny to have Eric just get squashed,
Squished.
basically.
Yeah.
So I didn't do the bit with like so all the spiders. Now this is a really nerdy thing, but I don't know if you noticed, some of the spiders have weird names,
Mm-hmm.
but they're basically the like Latin, or I think Latin, but
Different.
the like
Yeah.
species names for their spiders.
Yep.
So the nursery web spider, the spider who looks after all the little hatchling spiders, is called Pisa uridae.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have her reading the book at them, but I thought I kind of want each ending to correlate with one of the remaining spiders. So it kind of became her ending.
Okay.
So that was fun. Yeah. Okay. So you found the party one. Great. Good.
Yes. So enjoyed my time at the party for a couple seconds there, and then brought the eye to the fountain and
Yep.
met my my own grandpa, and that was nice. So then I started experimenting because I was like, I wonder what else there is here. I know there's 2 more endings, but I'm having trouble finding them. So I went back into the spider area for the first time,
Yes.
and they mentioned that I should only come back when I had the eye.
Yeah.
And that's also where I learned that the nursery spider will heal you.
Yeah, I didn't want to make that explicit, so
Yeah.
I quite like that. That's something that you can stumble upon and be like, oh, actually, if I fail a room, if I'm getting battered, I don't have to die. I can go and get healed up.
That's a really cool idea. And I guess I should mention that it didn't immediately spring to mind because you can continue if you're killed.
Yeah.
In the climbing sequences, but brought the lack of eye back to the back to the elder, and then saw that ending. But I've been experimenting since and have not figured out where the last ending is. So I'm wondering if
do
you
do
could.
you want a hint or not?
I would love a hint.
Okay, so I tried to make it so, like I said, like the game, I wanted to make it like you could breathe through it, but I also wanted it to be like if you poke around everywhere and talk to everybody and that kind of thing. Like every ghost spider that you meet has at least 3 passages of dialogue, and some of them are just complete nonsense. But they're there for fun, and if you want to sort of see more. But in terms of when I created the town, it can be a bit. It sounds ridiculous because it's only one screen on the Playdate, but it can be a bit overwhelming. You're suddenly like, okay, there's this whole little town. I'm this one little tile. Where do I go? So I tried to, where I could, make visual cues. So how did you find the fountain? Did you notice the tile or not?
The fountain.
Or did you just stumble upon it by chance?
I noticed the tile above
Right.
the B area.
Yeah. So it's teeny tiny, but there's like a little visual indicator of this is a bit out of place. And I don't know if you noticed, but all the houses that you can go into, the lights are on. So apart from the manor, but there's one indicator on that map which looks the same as something else.
Ooh, okay.
That's that's a bit cryptic. I can tell you more if you want.
But
if I tell you more, it will be. Why don't I? If you can't get it in a day, then tell me, and I'll. Oh no! I hope people can find it. Oh no! Okay. I'll give you a slightly more obvious clue.
Okay.
The key for the manor isn't only for the manor.
Oh, okay. All right. I think I've got an idea now. Okay.
Good.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And there's, it was so much fun just packing it with Easter eggs. There's, have you found there's a little message for my wife in there? Have you found that?
I don't think so.
Oh, well, it's one of those ones that maybe nobody will ever find it. Maybe somebody will find it. But it was really a big driver for me. And you said it before actually on the podcast. I love that the Playdate, particularly when you're a parent as well, is just this perfect tiny little thing that does actually fit in your pocket, and you can whip it out and play it for a few minutes. So I knew that it was never going to be a massive game, but I wanted people to want to play it more than once and experience it more than once. So I've got to say that making the ending calculator work was a nightmare. And this doesn't say it actually, but you do. It's not a massive thing, but you do get something for getting all the 5 endings as well.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it's not a big thing, but I wanted there to be something to say, hey, thank you for playing my game 5 times. That's ridiculous. Have this thing.
Well, that's excellent. And I can't
Yeah.
wait to see it. And George, I want to thank you again for creating such a cool and creative game. And I loved exploring and talking to everybody that I could,
Yes.
bashing into every tile possible and trying to figure out the edges of this really unique and creative world that you've made. So thank you so much.
Oh, that's
And
really kind. Thank you. No, that's really kind of you to say. And thank you so much for inviting me on as well.
absolutely. Well, listeners, this is the end of the podcast now, but join us in another fortnight and we will have more Playdate talk. Thanks again, George, and talk to you later.
See you later.